Greetings, everyone. It's Michael here at Bridge Hands. Welcome to a happy Saturday. And I think we are on about June 6th, 6/6 at 1 p.m. out here, California time. Not sure where you are and when you are watching this, but so happy to have you here today. And we are going to be talking about confidence. I hope you are feeling like you are confident and you'd like to learn more about that. So, anytime we talk about bridge hands, we're normally, logical, left brain, but we do have this emotional side that we've spoke about, and we're going to be continuing that theme today. I have 12 hands. I played in a couple of games here. I guess it was yesterday. All my troubles seem so far away. Anyway, I was just going through quick. I normally try to play them with a half hour and 35 minutes, and I had a couple slips I'll talk about there. And then I thought, a couple hours later, after dinner, Grace, you made a lovely dinner that night, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That night. That was
that night. The night when I did these, just getting a couple of quickie hands. Because I wanted to show you some just kind of at the table, online, playing on Bridge Base Online, how it works, and see where confidence worked well, and some other things that maybe got in the way of having the top score. The second time I played it a couple hours later, I did get first. First time I had a second place out of about 30 to 50 people, I think it was. We'll get into that in a little bit. But today we are going to be talking about, first off, confidence. So I think I have some slides here for that. And there it is. So Grace, are we seeing it on the screen there?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay, let's see if this one does. I think it should pop up in a
There
couple
we
seconds.
go. We got it.
Okay, so yes, on I think it was about the 4th is when I had these put together, and so we'll take a look and see just how that worked. So this will be a robot match point game on the American Contract Bridge League, ACBL, and they have 12 board games. This is the one I normally play on. And I guess this one it says 53. I had a 65%, which is fine. And so we'll go ahead and go into taking a look at it from a confidence perspective. But before we do, let's talk a little bit about some bridge players. And, here is the team, the Dallas Aces team that I think I've mentioned before, that they were selected by the person in the lower left, Ira Korn, down in, I think he was an industrialist down in the Dallas area. And he said, I'm going to invite these people to be part of my team, which I think can represent the United States, to go on to win for the world the Bermuda Bowl. And so there were the original 6 people. Well, no, that isn't all the original 6. Excuse me. People had come and gone. And so not all these names you see line up with the faces. About half of them do. But over the period of time, they did change from I think it's about 12 years. I think 1982 is when Ira passed away, and that was when the team disbanded. The first, I think, 3 or 4 years, he gave them a stipend, not only paid for their expenses, but said, I'll pay you a couple $100 a week. I think it was $800 a month, $950 if you had a spouse. Woohoo! That was probably okay in 1968. Anyway, he got his team and paid for all the expenses, and hey, they got a chance to just do a lot of bridge. And he had a support network. Computers were pretty new back in those days, but he had ways that they could practice programs and looking at different hands that other people had played. So in other words, it was very intensive, and they were all very accountable to one another with their 7 deadly sins, and that's what I think I'm going to talk about next. The 7 deadly sins, you may remember, we spoke about a little bit before. Obviously about bidding. I see this so often on Bridge Base Online. People bid without values. Ugh! And as I mentioned, when you take a look at my profile, the thing is, don't repeatedly overbid, without values yourself. So I guess, that's probably the only one I really have down there for my system notes. Everybody else got all these things about the conventions they play. Just, have your bids. System violations. I got an extra letter in there. I see when I typed that up. But system violations can be a big problem. When you have an agreement, you don't follow them. And we'll take a look at some robots. So they always play bottom of something, top of nothing. Are there times that they don't need to? Very interesting. But normally we think about the things on your values when you open, in which seat, when you preempt, what kind of values do you have, invitational methods, those types of things, cubit in the opponent's suit, yada yada. Unilateral actions, yeah, where you just one spade, four spades, and maybe I've got too many points where I should be kind of preemptive and weak with five spades and little else. But yeah, you don't want to make little unilateral actions. It's a partnership game. And when somebody, and I see these people online sometimes with a pickup partner where they just say, I'm just going to do it. And one time they have a lot of values, and next times they don't. And it doesn't help partnership trust at all. No win declare play, no win defense play. I mean, yeah, you want to have your best line of play as the declarer and as the defender, and that requires a fair amount of concentration, doesn't it? Okay. And impulsive plays. Yeah, the knee-jerk plays where, the opponent's double and you just do a redouble or whatever it happens to be. But not being mindful. And I think the one that I see that bothers me most, that I think we should all work on, is, I'll talk about in a moment, is not letting somebody else control the speed of play. If they play slow, but then they want you to play fast or vice versa, don't let your opponents control the speed of play. And the last one's the mechanics, the things you do when you pull a card or other things that happen where you maybe don't even look. Let's say it's, my mother's done this too. It's like, okay, she plays the cards and just turns it down. Well, Mom, can we see what that card is before you turn it down? She, I guess, just knew that she won the trick, but we'd like to see its value. And that's also true with the dummy. That's one of the laws you should know, is that as the dummy, you're allowed to see everybody's play. You can't make note of it. Oh, like, hey, partner, look, they sloughed a club on the heart play. No, you can't do it for that reason. But if you couldn't see a card, it was shown towards the declarer. If it was played really fast and you would like to see its value, use the dummy and say, excuse me, I wasn't able to see that trick. And they may not like it, but that's part of what the laws are. They can't just, because you may want to know, maybe somebody didn't follow a trick, and as you as the dummy, that's one of your rights. So that, I guess, would actually come under mechanics. Just kind of cut that one off of the tip of my tongue there. Okay, so what else? Number 8. I guess I should get myself here, or else Grace can say, where are you? I'm here, Grace. You want to be street smart. There's a lot of things that go in street smart. I think I talked about some with the speed of play, those types of things. But, there are these parlor tricks sometimes that people will play, or maybe sometimes you will want to. A side bid is not something I generally like to see people do, but I suppose there is a time and a place. I won't get into that right now, but you need to at least be aware when someone else is like doing a bid without the values. Now, back in the, I guess it was about 1970s, I think Don Oakey was the CEO of the ACBL, or maybe he was the president, but anyway, he had a high position, and he said, regarding these people that do Sykes, I think that the values, when you make a bid, it should be within a queen of strength, within 2 points of strength. And in terms of the length, it should be 1 card of length. So if you want to preempt with a 5-card suit, I think Marty Bergen talked about that, is that, somebody opens 1 club and he's got ace, king, jack 5 times, and he does 2 diamonds, and you should have a 6-card suit. That would be okay, according to the Don Oakey kind of rule, and that's kind of followed over the last 40, 50 years, I think. So at any rate, street smart's a lot to that. We'll get into some of that today. Next is awareness. Yes, Grace?
Bernice asks, do these apply to playing with bots?
Street smart. The bots don't normally do things that are cute, sexy, untoward, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to think about that. And you can't really do that to them very much either. Oh, there is one thing. Here's a street smart thing. I'm so glad you asked. This is another one to just come off my tongue just like that. And that is that when you have where you see the bots take a lot of time, that means that it's not just going by the if then else algorithms like, if 15 to 17, if balance, I will open, 1 no trump. But in some situations where it's like taking a look at something that are not in the hard rules, but let's say that it's running through all the permutations upon the cards and said, okay, there's ace, jack, 9, 5 times in clubs in the dummy, and there's Queen 8 in my hand and there was such and such a lead, it'll run through a lot of different ways that it might want to play that hand. And when you see it taking a lot of time, you might think, aha, it's doing some calculations here. It's not just like an automatic play. So yes, you're allowed to make inferences when the bot is taking several, maybe 5 seconds before it makes a play. It's like, it's thinking. it's got some stuff going on there. And you can make inferences based upon that. Of course, it's ethical. And when your opponents do it, of course you would want to do it there too. If they're like tanking, or things like that. So, and they will do it for you too. And so if you take a lot of time, they go 1 no trump, 2 clubs, 2 diamonds, 2 no trump, 3 no trump, and you take 30 seconds to play before you make your opening lead, I think that person's probably got 14, 15 points. What do you think? So yeah, the bots have some of that only when they're taking time to think, but they won't try making unusual bids that are not, they'll always follow whatever the rules are. Okay, we talked about awareness is knowing kind of what's going on around the table, being aware of what is happening. And I suppose awareness is after the game is played too. How did our results do? We're playing against some really good players and we set them by 2. We got 100 points and they're like, they're kind of talking like, oh man, why did we do this? And everybody else has got like made 3 of a suit our way and we would have got more than 100 points. And if we don't even know it, there's the 3 types of people. The movers and the shakers, the leaders that cause things to happen. Those who are always attentive and watching and are ready and prepared to capitalize on anything where there's an opportunity, watching the ticker tape on the stock market. And the third type, those that don't know what happened at all. When we're younger players, where unfortunately our awareness is not always there, but we should be, as we'll talk about, smart in terms of the environment. I'll get into that in a second. Partnership vibes. Yeah, you want to have a good partner, not a center hand opponent. You want to be someone that your partner likes you, enjoys your company. You make them feel sexy and smart and intelligent. Okay, the concentration, attention, and mindfulness. Yes, this is about concentration today. Another way to say it, are you attentive? Are you mindful? Are you purposeful? And we'll get into that. Next is it the confidence there with the anchoring and choking. Yeah, if you've got like the X factor, I think they call it. Grace, you know about the X factor?
A little bit.
Okay, the X factor is where you feel like you're upbeat, you're leaning forward. Your psyche, will talk about some of the biological things in just a minute, but you are feeling good. You are ready. You're all these other things too. Street smart, attentive, aware, all these things. You've got the aura. Versus the other hand is like, oh my gosh, I'm in 7 no trump, and I have 1 today. I think that's that type of a contract. Is that okay? Take that good breath, as we'll talk about, and don't choke. Especially if it's a tournament, especially if it's a Bermuda Bowl, and it happens. Fitness, yeah, you want to be where you're well rested. You've got a sleep the night before, and that you're not going to get fatigued after 2 or 3 hours of play. Hopefully you haven't consumed any libations or had too much coffee. It's got you too wired, whatever.
That would be my challenge.
Studying the laws. Yeah, those are a couple things. Is, to be sure that you're ready to play when you get there and you know what your partnership agreements are and so on. The time is on your side. We talked about using time, and I don't think I've mentioned before the equal time principle. One of the top players I used to play with, he said, if they take 10, 15, 30 seconds when it's your turn, don't make a play in 4 to 5 seconds. Use equal time. So if they're going to take 10 seconds, you should take about 10 seconds. If you don't and your partner does, and they think, oh, that's where that queen is, that's who I need to finesse. So yeah, be sure that you have time where you don't let them control it. And arbitrage, sure. So when you're not vulnerable versus vulnerable, or vice versa, be aware is that what your opponents will do. And the robots are very good at leverage arbitrage. If they are non-vulnerable versus vulnerable, they will do things they would not otherwise do. They are really good at that. They've been programmed to do well by top players. And we should be aware how to use arbitrage to our advantage when they do something to us. If appropriate, don't do it just anchoring the previous hand, but if appropriate, then you want to share the wealth with them and show how that works, when you can do preempts or other actions. Okay, next we're going to talk about systems. And there are lots of types of systems, but I thought this would just be kind of informative and a little bit of fun before we get into the nitty gritty. And you can remember back in the 50s and before, it was the 4-card major. Charles Gorin was kind of the top of his game, and Culberson back 30 years before that, and it was 16, 18 point no trump. You didn't open as many no trumps as you do these days, because now we're 15 to 17. I think it's like about 15% more that you can open with 15 to 17 versus 16 to 18. And some people play less for no trumps. But anyway, that was the Gorin system, and then along came the Akal system, and that was where they said, yeah, 4-card majors, but we'll open 12 to 14 point one no trump. Well, what do you do if you have 15 to 17? Well, we'll rebid one no trump. Oh, okay. So then some other systems also, like Roth Stone, they had the forcing no trump. Oh, that kind of sounds like the 2/1. Yeah, before the 2/1, the Roth Stone system had that and some other things, such as the major suit responses. And then after that was the Kaplan Scheinwald, another one of those systems. I don't know if you heard about Freddie Scheinwald, but another great player. And he was actually, back before the CIA was formed, it was kind of like the MI6 in England. I think that was where it was, or maybe it was in the United States. But anyway, he was the chief code agent there. So he was an undercover guy. When he after got that, he said, I like this game of bridge. So fascinating person. And so he and Kaplan, they came up with adding the forcing no trump and the 12 to 14 no trump and some other things. I used to play KS with some people, the Kaplan Scheinwald system, for a while. And then this, how about a 5-card major? And so on the East Coast, they said, let's do a 5-card major rather than the West Coast. It's still the 4-card Gorin system. And that was called the Eastern Scientific. If you open one heart or one spade, that shows 5 if you're on the East Coast. Well, it didn't take too long before it was found to be superior, so the people on the West Coast said, yeah, we'll do that too. And so now we just talk about things like the standard American system or the 2/1. And sure enough, Walsh, husband and wife couple, Swanson, Soloway, they came up with this scientific and also had the 2/1. They used the forcing no trump as well. So if it was 1 of a major, 2 of something, then that was a game forcing. You know, the 1 diamond, 2 clubs, that's a whole nother story. We won't get into that. The 2/1, some of the authors that kind of picked up on it then, it was really getting steam. It was kind of the hot system. So Mike Lawrence and Max Hardy and a lot of others came in after that. And then about that time, you had the Precision Big Club. The Italians, they had their blue club system. CCY, kind of the creator of it, said, you know, if you open 1 club, you open with a lower level with the more you have. So the maximum would be 16 or more, could be 25 points, artificial. 1 club, you leave the maximum amount of room for bids and hope the opponents don't interfere. That's another story. And it was 12 to 15 is what they had for their 1 no trump. Okay, all that is well and good. So let's go ahead and take a look at the ACBL Hall of Fame. And I talked about the Dallas Aces, but some of the teams that succeeded after was the Nickel team. And they had a person who was a coach. Yeah, I started having coaches actually in bridge with these world-class teams. And the Nickel team, headed by Eric Kokish. And Eric and I have had some back and forth 15, 20 years ago about some of his system notes. He has like 450 pages of system notes. They're beautifully put together, Microsoft Word document. And anyway, he was a wonderful coach. And let's just take a look a little bit about him.
And we ended up playing against the Nickel team in the finals of the Bermuda Bowl in 1995. When we won the Vanderbilt in 1974, we were the youngest team ever to win the event. And it turned out it was just an oddity. We had a date set with a couple of other guys, and one of them was suspended just before the tournament. And he fixed us up with a couple of his friends, the brothers Dave and Bob Crosley. And we had no real aspirations of winning the event, although we all thought we were pretty hot shots in those days. And we kept on beating one good team after another until we got to the final and then won the event. And we did it in Vancouver, in Canada. So it was sort of a special moment.
Which is the best quality in a bridge partner?
They have to think about the game like you do. I mean, when you're playing expert bridge, your partner is a great player, and you think you're pretty good too, even if you're not. You have to think the same way on defense. You have to have the same concepts in bidding, where you have some sympathy for their position. Because if you think about the game differently, all of a sudden the partnership falls apart. So I think also loyalty is something very important.
By the way, Bob Crosley, there's a Crosley Bridge Club about 25 miles south in Greenbrae, California, down in Marin County, and I had directed there for a couple of years, worked with Bob some, a very sharp bridge player, and once he got his Grand Life Master, he kind of kicked back, as a lot of people do, made the achievement, but that's who he was talking about there. Let's go on to the next slide. So I got thinking about this. I thought, you need to be in your wheelhouse. I thought, well, wheelhouse, we've heard that term. You need to be in your wheelhouse. Yeah, when we talked about having that X factor and the thing, I thought, well, a little bit more about this. What does being in the wheelhouse mean? Okay, well, you need to have your ability, drive, and your needs, maybe wants/needs, but the ability is you need to be able to have this repeatable action. You have to have your systemic agreements. You have to have the confidence. You have to have studied all these things where you follow the agreements. And then the drive. Yeah, that, I guess, would be something where you have the passion about it, what you're doing. And so it comes from within inside, if it happens to be, bridge or whatever it is in life. And you have to have the need. Sometimes the need is maybe more built on pain, but to get something fixed so that it will be better than it was before. So I saw a slide that I adapted just a little bit. So you maybe heard of the 7 habits of highly influential people and the different circles with the concern, the outer circle, the things you can influence, and the things that most on the inside are things you can control. And I saw this slide that kind of included some of the things in the wheelhouse they had in the middle. And I thought, that's just what I'm looking for. The ability, the drive, and the need being close to the center. And that's something that are definitely in your control. And if you lack one of the elements, like the ability, then you maybe lack focus. If you don't have the drive, maybe then you lack the fuel, or if you don't have enough of the need, then maybe your conscious is not there. So, and then it had other things like family, friends, parents. I forget the fourth one. I thought, well, for bridge, I would say it might be your partners, your ecosystem. Who do you play with? You always play with the same people in rubber or kitchen bridge, if you will. It's not going to be as competitive or learn as many new things as when you go on a cruise ship and then get in a duplicate bridge like I did, and so on. Your training and practice is obviously important. And then what is your balance? Holistic balance. What does that mean to you? Well, what it means to me here is that how much time do you want to invest in whatever it is? If you think that, I need to be, well, when I worked for AT&T, they had a lot of different factories where they manufactured telephone equipment. One was Columbus, and they said it was many acres wide with 4 inches deep, so they didn't specialize on anything. And similarly with ourselves, we may say, well, I'm interested in bridge. I'm enough here to watch this lesson, but maybe I'm not going to get just so serious. I have other things in life, and that is fine. So you have to think about, the risk reward and where you spend your time. Obviously the pros, like the Dallas Aces, for years, they were just doing bridge, basically from sun up to sunset, eat, drink, and regurgitate bridge. And so I guess that you have to think about, in our overall ecosystem, is that how does it fit in? Well, okay, fair enough. But let's get along to some of the now psychological things aside with having confidence and concentration. So we have these involuntary reactions. Remember we talked earlier about these kind of knee-jerk things that can kind of happen. And oftentimes it's the old lizard brain, flight or fight. And then we have the sympathetic, where we maybe get these states of if not fear, but at least an external stimulus that has us worried or concerned, or other things we get aroused by. We think, we can really capitalize on this, and that will affect our heartbeat, our breathing, and so on. It releases adrenaline. I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a second. And then there is the parasympathetic, which is when we come back down and we get to this level of stability. And we'll talk a little bit more about the cortisol levels as what's happened to our body. So here's the bridge player's mind. Look at on the one side, all this emotional stuff, all these different colors. And there's the logical left brain side. Slow, deep breathing, you're relaxed, you're observant, versus the others. Fast, short breaths. I'm tense. I've got internal focus on myself. And so, yeah, you want to be where you do have the logical thinking, analytical side. There is a time to enjoy the emotions, to have laughter and have positive types of things. But if you're in the upper right where there's anxiety, nervous, and frustrated, angry, it's not as good as if you're sharp, focused, enthusiastic, happy. Hey, Grace, what are you feeling?
I'm feeling that if you slid over to the other side or read what was behind you, we would all see emotional, reactional, down.
Oh, Grace, you're so tough. Gosh.
You might not be able to get
Really?
back up. There we
Okay,
go.
I'm
It's
going to go back and
spontaneous.
forth. There you go. Oops,
All
I got the
right.
wrong
Whoops.
slide. Whoa, how'd that happen?
Sorry about
Okay,
that.
there we go. Are you feeling better now, Grace?
Yes, we just wanted to make sure we read it all, honey.
Okay, I can just go away if you'd like to. You want me just out of here? I'm gone. Okay.
No, don't leave.
Thank you for sharing that, darling. Okay, next slide is, I think, coming up here. Yeah, right here. And so we have the adrenaline, cortisol, and this is over time going from left to right. And you can see that initially when we have this stressful situation, we get the adrenaline, poof, and then the cortisol will come to kind of slow us back down. So that's kind of the normal rhythm, and this is fine. We are going to have some of this at the table or whatever those things are in life. Maybe you're going to the bridge game and there's some bad traffic and you're not going to make it on time, you feel, and will they hold a spot for me? Will my partner be mad at me? Yeah, your adrenaline will be going up there also. So be aware of that, and when you have it where there's multiple stressful situations, hopefully you and your partner are getting along, but if you're not, you're going to have the adrenaline and the cortisol going bzz, 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 bzz. And now you're using a lot of energy up, aren't you, when this sort of thing happens. And when it gets really bad, then if your adrenaline's too high for too long, I played with somebody in a tournament down in Santa Clara, and I don't know if the person was snorting something in between rounds, but man, that person was wired. And obviously that's not going to work for very long. So at the bridge table, some of these undesired effects, as we talked about, and you'll know sometimes when your heart rate gets up, your perspiration, you can feel it on your fingers, it's a little bit more moisture. You have an increase in the blood pressure, which is not great. And, as your body's going to start releasing some sugar, this glucosamine. Maybe fat's a good thing, honey, to release some fat. Is that a good thing? I don't know. Maybe for
could
me it
be.
might be. You're in pretty good shape. But yeah, your digestive systems, obviously the adrenaline and cortisol is going to be affected, and it will likely not be this left brain. You're going to get more to the right brain where your concentration and awareness, and ultimately, what? Your confidence, yes, will be. You'll get this fight or flight. And also fatigue if you do too much of it, which means you don't have the staying power to make it through the whole game. So, okay, I think we are ready to go for the bridge table, and here it was. I normally don't take the full hour. I'm just kind of use it as a practice tool, and for better or worse, might affect my concentration, but that's the time I allow. And so this was 53. I was in second place. I did get a little over 66. I had not too much, just about 1.5 match points from being in first, and we'll take a look at why. Yes, there is some things why. And like I said, then I played a couple hours later, and I was able to get a 70-point game, and it was better than this one. But, I was fine with it, but I do want to show is that what are some of the good and the bad. So, okay, we're going to go to the first hand over here. And I am going to go to another screen, Deep Finesse, and I think we are there. And North should be the, we're going to go board 1 through 12. And, I do have something I wanted to bring up on the screen also from time to time, and maybe I'll start with that. So let's see if I go into, this will be social lesson 23. And I'm looking for a Microsoft Word document. And I think it's this one. Yeah, I'd like to maybe start off by doing something different, and that's showing us that
We've got the
what happened.
north and or southwest and east blocking.
I'm actually, going to want to get rid of that now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, okay, here it is. This is after it's all said and done. So we're going to take a look at the conclusion and then go back and watch the story. How about that for something different? So it's a match point. Yes, there were 55 tables, and I was second out of 52, 0.63 master points. Fine. There we are in second place. The first place was 65.4, and you can see some other people weren't too far behind. Most everybody was in 60, all for the top 10 places. So, there's a couple boards different, and here was the 12 boards. Board 1 through 12 over here on the left, and everybody else is GIB, the Ginsburg Intelligent Bridge Robots. I'm the only human, like everybody else at the other 50-some tables. So the first board was 2 spades north, making 3. I'm playing south. My partner, the robot, was that. I played that hand once, but they were the declare. Obviously, they had spades. And we can just look all the way down. There was that 7 clubs in the south on number 5. That'll be my adrenaline. We'll be up on that one. Grace, you have something?
Bernice has a really nice thought. She said that hot flashes are thought to be a sign of being nervous, while playing a hand also thought as having a card the opponents are looking for. True story.
This is true. Yeah, there's a lot of tells we have in this game. Very good, Bernice. So, at any rate, if we look in the score column, if you see red, that means it was under 50%. You say, oh, what happened to Michael on board 2? Oh, I got 41%. It was almost 50. How about on board number 8? Oh, 19%. Not so good there in your 3 no trump contract. You went down 1. And look at that last one, only 8%. 3 no trump. Man, you better practice your no trump bids, Mr. Nistler. So anyway, we'll talk about that as we go through. But fortunately, had a lot of good boards there. So, and then we can take a look at, like here's the first board. And you can see we were in third out of the whole group. I didn't show all 55, but that was at 97.22 and so on and so forth. So, these can be useful for you as far as to get feedback. And I think feedback is an important part of the game. So I would just suggest to you is to kind of be thinking about this when you're at the table.